All right, let's roll on to the NFL draft. I want to get your takes real quick on ranking the top college quarterbacks at this time. We kind of did that on a previous show last year, where he broke down guys C.J. Stroud and Bryce Young and Will Levis, especially Will Levis. I kind of want to hear your thoughts because he's kind of been up and down. But how would you rank the top quarterbacks for the 2023 NFL draft?
Yeah, for me, there's one new name in, say, the top four. I mean, the top two is the same. It's Stroud and Young, and I'm not really moving off of that. And I know Alabama just lost, but Young was a baller in that game. Still a huge fan of what he does at the position. I know the criticisms and all that, the size and everything, but I'm still a huge fan of his. Hooker's now at 3 for me.
Wow.
I've been very impressed by him. And I know what the debate is going to be. It's going to be the age thing because he's an older college quarterback. I mean, he's a graduate. And there are going to be people that say, look, you don't draft a quarterback that's that old. I think that's a bit of an outdated thing. Quarterbacks are playing longer generally when they are able to stick around and if they're good. So I think the end part of it, the end range, isn't a concern. And they're playing early. You know, it's one thing if you drafted a quarterback 10 years ago who's 24, 25, with the idea that you might sit him for 2 or 3 years and then he doesn't start until he's 27. Now he's probably going to play right away, you know, or as a rookie in all instances. And so the age thing, I think, is not as much of a factor as it used to be. And then Levis is 4. Levis is the guy that's going to be, you know, you're going to hear stories like, oh, coaches say they want their, you know, daughter to date him and, you know, he's a film guy. And, you know, you're hearing these glowing character type of reviews around him right now. I go by more than anything else since I don't get to sit down with these guys, absent some rare circumstances, what I see on film, and it's been up and down. I think, you know, there's almost no better duplicate than beating a Nick Saban defense, maybe a Kirby Smart defense, but beating those types of defenses with the looks that they give you, because what they're doing, you know, the cover 7 split coverages that Saban runs, that's where the NFL is going with all this discussion about too high and quarters and all of that. That's all Sabanese. Kirby Smart runs similar stuff. And if, you know, Hooker squares off with Georgia and has a similar type of game, it's going to be hard to look me in the eye and say, I'm drafting somebody else over, you know, Hendon Hooker. Now, if it's Stroud or if it's Young, I might get it. But if it's one of the other guys, I'd push back on that and say, look, there's no better test for a college quarterback as to what they could be in the NFL than staring across the field at one of those types of defenses. He solved one. I'm very curious to see if he can solve another.
Love it. All right, Hendon Hooker over Will Levis. I agree. Will Levis, every game it seems like he makes that like 1 or 2 throws that are like, wow, that was.
I've seen the Carson Wentz comps already.
Interesting. Okay.
And I can kind of get it. There's a bit of a roller coaster factor there. Now, look, there's a lot of football left to be played. I get it, but right now that's where I've got those guys.
All right. Another guy that's been kind of up and down, especially up then down, is Anthony Richardson. And the guy came out like gangbusters. He looked like the next Cam Newton. He was incredible with his arm, with his legs. But what's your take on Anthony Richardson? Because he's struggled, right?
Yeah, it's been up and down. And I, you know, thinking about this show earlier today and thinking about, you know, where Richardson is, rewatching some of it, I get a Malik Willis vibe in a sense. Very athletic, but there's a lot of growth that needs to happen. Now, look, I had Willis in last year's draft as QB1. So to then say that, like, to turn around a year later and say, oh, this guy, Anthony Richardson, reminds me of Willis, but I'm a little bit unsure of him. Yeah, you know, that seems a little bit off, but it was a different quarterback class. I think in this group, you know, Richardson had some work to do if he wants to get towards the top of the draft board. Then, you know, there's certainly talent. You saw the run against LSU Saturday night. Like, there's certainly talent with Anthony Richardson. You know, he has the arm talent and all of that stuff. It's just playing more consistent, avoiding mistakes. Like, those are things that he has to sort of clean up. You know, if the season ended right now and I was advising him, I'd say you might want to stick around another year. Yeah. I don't know if you want to rush out right now, particularly in this draft class. Like, maybe give it a year, although we're probably going to talk about a guy in a second that you don't want to be in the same draft class with.
Yeah. So Anthony Richardson, I could see it both ways. I don't know. Like, Malik Willis is a great comparison because I think regardless of whatever program he gets drafted to, whether it's this year or next year, like he's gonna get that Malik Willis treatment. Like you're gonna have to take time and coach him up and things like that. But like the reward potential for a guy like that is outstanding.
Yeah, which is part of the reason why, particularly in last year's draft class, we had people talking up Malik Willis. It's like, look, if you're skeptical about this class anyway, why not take a big swing on the upside? Willis still fell to the third round, even in that draft class, which I still thought was surprising. But, Tennessee might be in a situation where, they had Ryan Tannehill. They've got room and time, and they can take their time with him and be patient with him. It might end up being the perfect landing spot for Malik Willis. And, if Richardson does come out, maybe something similar happens. He goes to a team like maybe like an Indianapolis that maybe has another year with Matt Ryan, but the window is closing and they've got a chance to sort of develop somebody.
All right. And then we get to another guy. It's the exact opposite. And I can't wait to hear your thoughts on this guy because coming into this, he wasn't really on my radar for some reason. I don't know how I missed him, but he's by far the biggest climber for me this year. I'm blown away every single week by this dude, Caleb Williams, out of USC. The way he just improvises, avoids pressure, makes big-time throws with his arm again and again. What's your take on Caleb Williams, and is he the lock number one pick in 2 years for the 2024 draft?
I mean, lock, I don't want to go there. Because obviously we've got a long ways to go. But does he look like he could be? Yeah, absolutely. He's dynamic. And he's someone that's been on my radar for years now because he's a kid local to the D.C. area. So
cool.
The whole process of him getting recruited out to play at Oklahoma and eventually taking the job from Spencer Rattler and then now going to USC. Like he's somebody that I've been watching for a while now. Dynamic, like explosive, just an absolute offensive weapon at the quarterback position. Some of the plays he made against Utah this past week in a loss were just, sharing them around in group chats or in the SB Nation Slack. Like this guy's different. And I don't see any sign of that changing. His third year in a Lincoln Riley offense next year, I can only imagine the kind of production he's going to put up, the kind of plays that he's going to make. So sitting here right now, yeah, he looks like he's going to be the first overall pick in next year, the 2023 draft. I guess 2024 draft at that point. But, things can change. We thought that about some other quarterbacks down the road. I mean, I've written pieces about what the way too early mock drafts sometimes look like and how, who we thought was going to be QB1 changes. Yep. Spencer Rattler was that guy, right? Like the guy that Caleb's job he took. I mean, so things can change. But right now, yeah, he looks like he's built different.
Tanner Mckee, where does he go? Like, that was another guy I was like pretty interested in, and he's kind of fallen off a little bit.
Yeah, I mean that's I think a product of what's happening with Stanford right now. I mean, he's 5 interceptions. That's not what we thought. He threw just 7 of all last year. Stanford sputtering a little bit. QBR of like 58.9. Now he'll get the David Shaw's offense is like pro ready. It's going to get ready to play quarterback. But that can only get you so far. I mean, you look at what the game requires at the quarterback position now, like lining up under center and taking a nice drop with your fluid footwork. That's only part of the game now. It used to be most of it. You got to be able to create. The game is trending towards the Caleb Williamses of the world and away from the Tanner Mckee type of quarterbacks.
I agree.
That's probably not helpful for Tanner Mckee.
Yeah, I could just see Caleb Williams just plug and play in the NFL. Just get rid of the ball fast and just move the ball downfield. He's just built for the NFL. This is a really fun question because Texas is suddenly becoming must-watch TV every Saturday. How good is Quinn Ewers in your opinion, and what does that mean for the following year? I believe when Arch Manning comes to Texas, what are they going to do there?
I mean, I'd imagine Texas is sitting there right now thinking we're just going to have 1 year of overlap between the two because Quinn's already shown that he'll be able to leave after next year. He'll be able to enter, and then Arch will have the 1 year of sort of sitting and watching and learning Sarkisian's offense, and then he'll take over after that. That's how I imagine it will play out. That's what I've had people tell me in the college world. he's going to be leaving before you know it because he'll be ready. Like he looks already. Like JT O'Sullivan, the QB School on Twitter, did a great video recently on Quinn, showing some of the absurd throws that he can make, the off-platform stuff that he can do. One more year in the offense after next year, I think he'd probably be in a position to leave. I guess the question would become, if the growth that we think will happen next year, through the rest of this year and into next year doesn't happen, and he maybe takes a step back, and he decides, look, I'm not ready, and he sticks for one more year, and now you've got Arch Manning waiting for 2 years.
Yeah.
They can always redshirt Arch, buy an extra year or things like that. But in this transfer market world we're living in, would he want to do that? Or would you say, look, I'm ready to play. I can go play somewhere else right now. LSU needs a quarterback.
Yeah.
That's going to be the interesting thing. But I think the path that Quinn's on right now makes it where it'll be like 1 year where Arch gets to sort of learn what it's like to be a college kid and then takes over.
Love it, man. All right, that basically wraps up our show tonight, man. Plugs, final thoughts on the Eagles. Where can we find you, man?
Well, look, the Eagles look great right now. Could that change? Maybe there is a lot of football left, but hard to argue with 6-0. And I think Hurts looks every bit the part, and I'm excited to see it. On Twitter, at Mark Schofield, SB Nation, SBNation.com. Get to do a lot of different stuff. It's not just all football. I've been writing about baseball, Formula One, wrote some hockey stuff.
Nice.
We've read different sports as the football season winds down. But you can catch all the stuff over there at SB Nation. Mark Schofield on Twitter. Crocky, always love it, buddy.
Thank you so much for joining. Mark Schofield, at Mark Schofield on Twitter. The best of the best when he breaks it down. Everything NFL to Formula One. I didn't even know that. That's amazing. All right.
I'm a man of many interests. What can I say?
Love it. All right. Thank you, everyone, for watching. Please be sure to smash that like, subscribe button. For Mark, for myself, stay awesome, everyone.